Congresswoman.
Good morning, Mitch.
I was just hearing an exchange between Senator Cruz and Secretary Mayorkas on our own border before we get to the war questions. And Cruz said that, according to most reporting, only 13% of those who are released through catch and release show up at court hearings. Secretary Mayorkas said it was a vast majority. Cruz said, well, you're under oath. Do you want to change that in writing? Well, I would. I got to check the data. I'll get back to you. I mean, that doesn't inspire much confidence, Congresswoman.
No, there is not much confidence, and I'll tell you that what is happening in our southern border is a huge crisis. It's a big problem, and unfortunately, only probably 7 to 8% people that are legitimate asylum seekers, and we cannot help them because the system is very overwhelmed, and now it's to the point where a lot of these people don't even get notice to appear. They're just allowed to get into the country with no documents, with no even ability to get documents. And a lot of them come through that we don't even know who they are because our Border Patrol is overwhelmed. I mean, this is a huge national security crisis. And if you look what's happening everything in Europe and how we have a lot of terrorism on the rise, what's happening in Afghanistan, what's happening in Ukraine, it poses a lot of danger, just national security danger. On top of it, how it strains our system.
Well, getting back now to the country of origin for you, Ukraine. The West is coming together. They see NATO is solidifying the alliance. We're doing sanctions. President Zelensky is inspiring the world as he rules from, he speaks and governs from bomb shelters. But hey, Putin does whatever he wants, and we haven't been able to stop him from shelling civilian areas. I mean, what can we do to stop him?
Well, unfortunately, we've been playing a catch-up and being very slow and not very decisive to deter his actions. So at this point, we have to do a few things. We have to strengthen our eastern flank and our NATO allies to send a clear message, not with the words, but with deeds, that he is not going to go further, and we are not going to tolerate it. We have to draw a red line, but we need to make sure when we go to Poland and when we talked about Baltics, not just we talk about it, but actually we do some actions to strengthen them and show that we mean business. As the situation in Ukraine, it's a huge crisis, and I think, the administration has been very slow with the response. They really underestimated the Ukrainian people and really didn't deal with that correctly. But at this point, they have to regroup because, as you know, in any crisis, you have to have the right strategy, you have to have speed, and you need to have scale. And if you do have that, at least you can help these people to protect their civilians from being slaughtered and killed in thousands. Because what is looming out there, you have hundreds of thousands of people with no electricity, no water, yet it's shelled non-stop, no medication. You have special groups that come and kill women and children, don't allow to have humanitarian corridors, they shoot people. This is going to be a disaster that if we don't help them, millions are going to die. And they're not asking us to go and fight for them. I think they're asking for some things we cannot provide, like we cannot, have no fly zone, but there are things we could help them. And we are not doing it, and we're dragging the feet. We also have a huge humanitarian crisis at the border, and our NGOs are dragging their feet, and we need to push on Europe to do better to help Poland.
Well, the Pentagon does not want to send MiG-29s to the Ukrainians, thinking that would be World War III, but Putin sent weapons to the separatists in eastern Ukraine already in the past. I mean, President Trump sent javelins to anti-tank weapons to Ukraine in the past. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's kind of like politicizing a stupid statement the administration did and escalated about nothing. Even Putin didn't say that it was a problem. He said, if you notice what Russians said, when their Department of Defense issued a statement, they do not want this planes flying from aerodromes in NATO, but he didn't say anything if they were given to Ukrainians. I mean, it's kind of stupid to even think we gave them already javelins and spears and other things, and, it's not making that much difference. And there are other things, administration could help with. regardless even the next, they politicized this issue, then threw Poland under the bus, which really was kind of, not very good to deal with your ally like that. And I think Poland did very cleverly, did strike back at them, but it's kind of dumb because they're doing these things that, they do a lot of talk about nothing, but people are dying, and, they're not helping in the way how they should help, at least to help these people to protect some humanitarian corridors to save some people.
Yeah, I understand the whole World War III argument, Congresswoman, but what is the point of the UN Charter? Isn't collective security the point of the UN and the actual creation of the United Nations? Wasn't that the point?
Well, I think, unfortunately, UN became kind of a joke. When we went to the border, I went with my partner in Cadell, and we had this guy, like a French Belgium with a little, his coat and little beret. He showed up for 5 minutes to take a picture op. He was freezing there, so he didn't deal with the crisis. And I said, what do we do there? Oh, we don't know what we can do here and everything. So I'm like, this is a joke. I just leave here, please. Don't even bother us. I think UN became a very dysfunctional organization, and I think there needs to be a big discussion. What the purpose of it, and if it's not restructured in some way to become effective, cannot even help to save people and enforce some humanitarian corridors and safe passages for people. So it can do nothing. What's the point even having it? I think that is unfortunately, and it's a bigger discussion we need to have.
Somehow we got 38 countries to help us get Iraq out of Kuwait in 1991, but we can't do anything collectively to stop Putin. I guess because nuclear weapons. Do we really think Putin would use nuclear weapons knowing that the West would have to respond?
Listen, Putin is not that dumb. He's testing the West, and he has at least 3 nuclear countries on him, too, but I think we also need to be very clear, like we did before when President Trump said, when he tried to use, chemical weapons in Syria, President Trump said, here's 80 Tomahawks, and they're going to be flying to your base in Syria and killing Russians if you do it one more time. And what Putin did? No more chemical weapons attacks. And that's why we have to draw some red line and say, listen, some talk is too much, and you are not going to go there. And he is not going to go there. He is not that dumb, because Russia is not as strong as a lot of people think and have economic issue. Their military is not as strong, and he understands his limitation. But if he's going to be, threatening us and having hostages, and if we're weak and West doesn't set some red lines and follow them and mean what they say, he's going to push further. And he understood. He got away under Bush with a lot. He got away under Obama with a lot. He understood that he is not going to get away with Trump, so he did in advance, and he understands that Biden has been weak and politically driven. His decisions are politically driven, and he's afraid to make decisions, so he's trying to take advantage. So West needs to grow a backbone and say, you know what? This is our red line. Enough, Vladimir doing all this stuff. It's already too much, and I think he will understand. He is not that dumb of a person.
Getting back to domestic politics, we've been arguing in the Anderson for months, and we're just starting to argue in the county level about how to spend that American Rescue Plan money. The city, $23 million, the county, $25 million. But Republicans voted against that rescue plan, which I'm sure you're going to see in ads coming up, Congresswoman, against you and your colleagues. But yet, you seem to be running on inflation. Crime in the cities has been getting worse. The border, of course. How do you respond to those when the attacks come? The Republicans all voted no and voted against the rescue money and other monies. What do you say?
Well, if you think that the rescue plan is going to help you with all of the inflation that is actually taxing every American, especially on Americans with fixed income and lower income, then, you might like to have more spending. Because if you think about it, there was no need to have that huge of a package, which only 9% went to help with COVID. The rest of it pumped more money into economies that already was an inflationary course. And, and it was given to a lot of, causes that were really, paying back for, Nancy Pelosi's political contributors. But you cannot pump so much money from one side, then from the side of supply chain, where it already was problems with, with the pandemic issues, you actually strain your businesses more with mandates, regulations. So you you suffocate the supply, you pump too much money in the economy, and don't expect the inflation is going to happen. And then on top of it, you have a terrible energy policy and war on fossil fuels when the economy is in crisis, and give ton of money to aggressors and adversaries like Putin and Iran. And now they are all really on the rise and emboldened on that. So what you're causing right now, you can talk about this little peanuts you're going to give, but the people are going to hurt significantly with all of this inflation. And this is going to be a huge problem for a lot of Americans. It was so irresponsible to do this policy. And I said, we cannot continue. If we have spending this amount of money, if we have a targeted problem, let's target it. But that, unfortunately, it was a huge waste. 90% of money is a waste.
It sounds like campaign themes are coming through here: inflation, energy independence, and so forth. In terms of the final point about the war, and President Trump has been holding rallies saying he didn't invade Ukraine when I was president because my personality, he knew that it would be a mistake and so forth. Others are saying that Putin didn't need to because Trump was his ally. You've heard that, I'm sure. How's that going to play out, do you think, in the election?
Well, I don't know if they were a lie or not. Trump actually did a lot of things, to help and push on Europe to build liquid natural gas terminals, to push to become more energy independent. So he did a lot of different talk, but in reality, he actually pushed back in a lot of policies, that Russia didn't like. And he had some actions, including in energy policies, and he pushed back in some of situation, and they, no, this is too much. You're not going to go too far. So I think Putin understood that Trump very unpredictable, and Trump could actually do what he say. And then predictability and stress into great deterrence in foreign relations policies. Because when you have leadership that is weak and afraid to make a decision, aggressors like Putin will take advantage. They will take advantage of weaknesses. So Trump achieved a lot in foreign policies to peace through strength. I just went to Israel a few weeks ago, and Abraham Accords, what he's done. I mean, if that would be not a Republican president, probably would have gotten a Nobel Prize for Peace for what he's done in the Middle East. It changed the dynamics of so many countries over there, and there is a potential for peace in the Middle East. He actually were able to control North Korea from doing too much. So I think a lot of things on foreign policy front, he actually did a lot of great actions that he will never get a credit for. So I think we have to exercise much better peace through strength in our foreign policies right now. And Congress has a responsibility to push on this president.
Do you think China will attack Taiwan at some point?
Well, I think China is watching. I just actually saw Taiwanese representatives, and, they're very nervous. They're very concerned. As I said, they were very inspired by what Ukrainian people are doing, but they understand that they need to get ready, and they definitely, there is some hesitations what West will do or not. They have no hesitations where China and Russia can go when they team up. So West needs to really be more clear, if we want to be stronger in our foreign policy, because a lot of stuff is in the gray area we have. And I think that's not very productive, because when we have all these gray areas, aggressors take advantage of it. So we need to make stronger, really stands on some of these issues. And Taiwan is very, very concerned what's happening, and China is definitely watching.
Well, Congresswoman, we thank you for the time. As always, appreciate it. So look forward to talking to you.